welcome back. Let's head to the markets now. Yes, the markets should be open by now, but let's do a little bit of recap from last week. We saw that the all-share index for the NGX last week ended in the red, the first trading week of the month of June, and I think we had just about 2 positives, but eventually the bears had it. Equities cap is 56 or closed at 56.12 trillion naira. That's for the NGX. The volume, value, and deals were in the green for that. Even though I mean, the week before, the final week in the month of May was kind of magical or miraculous because we had more negative trades, but the market closed in the green. And so we see this month starting in the negative. Now let's go to the fixed income market. Last week was busy, as we know that the federal government has been working really hard to mop up cash from the economy, and they are using more of OMO this day. So last week we had both OMO and treasury bills, and we saw that for the OMO auction last week, 250 billion naira was an offer. Total subscription was 518.95 billion. And we see the rate still looking attractive. For 105, you had almost 19%, 189, 19.59%, and for about a year, you see 22.33%, looking close to the inflation number, which should which should make it attractive to a lot of investors. I see a graphics guy behind there trying to play some pranks on me. Now, if we go to the NTB for the treasury bills also for last week, let's look at the numbers right there. We saw that 221.13 billion was on offer. Total subscription was 713.8 billion. 91-day rate was about 16.5, 182, 17.5, 364, 20.67 at the close of the trading last week. Now let's have Demola. Demola Oshotukun is a fixed income dealer with Access Bank. Join us now to help us put flesh to those numbers. Demola, good morning. And last week you guys were really busy. A lot of auctions happened.
Yes.
I think the federal government is aggressively mopping up cash from the economy, and also it seems to be working, at least for the need that we have for FX.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and you hit the nail on the head. Last week there was significant liquidity at about Tuesday and Wednesday, so it was no surprise largely that the CBN came in with an OMO auction. They offered about 250 billion, which you mentioned, and we saw them oversell. So they sold about 513 billion out of that 518 subscription. So you can see quite an aggressive drive in terms of their contractual policy to ensure that there's less liquidity within the market. I think, as you mentioned, we saw rates around a similar level to where it closed at the previous OMO auction. So at the long end, it was about 22.33%, which represents just a 1 basis point decline from the previous one. So at 29% yield, still a very good investment for a number of our investors. And I think, as you mentioned as well, for the NTB auction, we saw a similar trend, where we saw rates close at, a similar level to where they had stopped at, the previous auction. So at the long end, about 20.67% stop rate, which represents about 27% yield. So we can see that from the DMO, it's a bit of a cautious, maybe approach in terms of not looking to borrow at very expensive costs.
Yeah, well, because we thought that by now rates would have fallen more than this, because the federal government has really, pushed the bar when it comes to rates. And of course, this increases debt servicing for the government at the end of the day. So I'm kind of a bit surprised that the rates are still this high. Do we see it tapering, or perhaps there's another plan that both the DMO and the federal government have?
I think for now, as you've mentioned, it's going to be my perception is it's a cautious approach, in terms of keeping these rates at 20.67. So we can see that 21%, especially for the NTB auction, is kind of like the level that they want to go above. As we mentioned, for the OMO auction, they're using that not only to mop up excess market liquidity, but also to bring in those PI flows. As we know that for the OMO auction, it's exclusively for banks and FPIs. So there's an NTB auction this week where it's a small amount, just about 44 billion that's going to be offered. So we await to see the approach that the DMO will take. But, I do expect that we'll continue to see rates around 20.67%, so I think they're not looking to increase rates significantly. We saw that at the last MPC when they increased rates. So largely the expectation was people thought, for the NTB auction, we might look to see, rates increase from 20% levels to maybe 21, 22. But that there's a cost attached to that, and they're choosing to take a cautionary approach.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see what their plan will be for the second half of the year, because if they raise all they want in the first half, then, second half might be really quiet. But thank you so much, Dimalo Shituku, for your time, and wish you a great trading day ahead.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
So that's how much we can take on Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We head back to the Sunrise Daily studios now for more conversations. Just stay with us here on Channels Television.